Welcome to this video looking at the general pattern of how the UK natural landscape is formed and explore some of the key elements that make it so distinctive. These basic elements are regularly asked in exams and bring together so much UK physical geography that they are worth understanding.
It is important that we understand the term distinctive landscape for our studies. Do you know what this means?
Landscapes are made up of visible features of an area of land that stand out. Its geology, climate and land uses give them distinctive characteristics that make them unique. Each landscape is created by an interaction of physical and human factors.
The landscape is generally split into upland, lowland and glaciated landscapes. Pause the show and make sure you know this definition before moving on.
One of the main factors behind the shape of our natural landscape is the geology. Do you know what that word means?
Geology is the study of rocks which form the landscape. The map shows a selection of different types of rocks found in the UK.
Each type of rock reacts differently to being weathered and eroded. This helps create a varied landscape of ours. Do you know what the different rock types are?
There are three general rock types. Igneous rocks are the most resistant to weathering and erosions. They are formed from cooled lava and deep magma. Granite and basalt are the main example found in the UK.
Sedimentary rocks are formed when sediments that have been washed into the sea are squashed onto each other on the seabed. These are less resistant to erosion and weathering. Examples are limestone and chalk.
Metamorphic rocks used to either be sedimentary or igneous rocks. These rocks have changed shape and composition by being reheated or pressurised. Examples in the UK are things like slate and marble. Make sure you know the different rock types before moving on.
We can see that the UK can be roughly split into hard and soft rocks. The harder rocks are the igneous and metamorphic rocks found to the north and west of the islands. They are generally in sloping bands of rocks from the southwest to the northeast.
The T-X line is an imaginary line that divides the landscape in the UK. The T's and X are both rivers.
In the south and east of the UK, there are generally softer, more easily eroded sedimentary rocks. Pause the show and make a note of the general geology pattern of the UK before moving on.
On the screen we can see the relief of the UK landscape. Relief is the shape of the land, whether it's flat, hilly or steep.
Most of the highland areas above 200 metres are to the north and west of the UK. These include areas such as Snowdonia in Wales, the Pennines to the north of England and much of Scotland.
The UK lowlands, below 200 metres, are to the southeast of England. These include places such as Norfolk and the Fens. The division between the uplands and lowlands also follows the T-X split we saw earlier with the geology of the UK. Pause the show to make sure that you know about the UK relief before moving on.
On the screen we can see how the role of glaciation affected the UK landscape in the past. Glaciation is when the land was covered in thick ice.
During the Quaternary period, much of the UK landscapes went through periods of glaciation. The power of the ice played a major part in shaping the landscape. The ice created large U-shaped valleys and eroded steep mountain peaks and ridges. This was to the north and west of the country.
During the interglacial periods, as the ice melted, it deposited all the eroded bedrock, known as moraine, into the lowland areas in the south and east of the UK. Pause the show and ensure you know about our ice, which particularly affected the upland UK landscape, before moving on. Geographical information systems can be used to help show the relationship between these physical factors that help make up our landscape.
The main mountain regions can be seen here on the map. They can be seen generally to the north and west of the country where the igneous rocks are found, such as the Grampians in Scotland.
We can now see the relationship between the extent of the glacial areas and the geology of the landscape. The blue line marks the furthest south the glacial erosion occurred.
We're able, using GIS, to pull all the different layers of information together. We can then see a general relationship with the harder igneous rocks in the north and west being mountainous and affected more by previous glacial periods. Pause the show and note down the links between geology, glaciation and mountains in the UK. It's also a good idea to note down what a GIS model is and how they work. To summarise, The UK landscape can be roughly split into two areas. These are split between the imaginary T-X line shown in yellow.
The upland regions above 200 metres are mainly to the north and west of the UK. This area is made up of igneous and metamorphic rocks such as granite and has been most eroded and shaped by ice in the past. Today, these upland areas are shaped by the cooler and wetter climate with high levels of frontal and relief rainfall, causing more weathering of the landscape.
The lowland areas to the south and east of the UK consist mainly of softer sedimentary rocks such as chalk and limestone. These areas, because they are lower and have a more southern latitude, tend to experience a warmer and drier climate. This means weathering rates will be less.
This concludes the overview of why our UK landscape is like it is. We've looked at how geology, relief, glaciation and even climate have shaped our UK landscape. Make sure you understand these general differences, which will help you with your studies.